The ink on the last page of the contract was still wet. Claire Sterling capped her Mont Blanc and slid it across the polished mahogany desk toward me. She wore a sharp, black power suit, her long hair pulled back in a severe bun that highlighted a jawline you could cut glass on. Those eyes, always calculating, were fixed on me with an unnerving calm. "Ethan, 2 years. That's the deal. You play the part of my loving husband. In 2 years, when Julian Vance comes back, we file for divorce. You get your money and walk away." Her voice was as chilled as the air-conditioned air in her corner office. I picked up the pen, the smooth, heavy barrel cool against my skin. I signed my name, Ethan Hayes, on the line marked Party B. The scratch of the nib was the only sound in the cavernous room. "Don't worry, Ms. Sterling," I said, looking up with my most charming, reliable smile. "I'll be the perfect contract husband." Inside, I was running the numbers. 2 years for $1 million. I can do this. A flicker of something, annoyance, confusion, crossed Claire's face. She stared at me, her eyes narrowing as if trying to solve a complex equation. I held the smile, my inner monologue kicking into high gear. God, does this woman treat everything like a corporate merger? It's a sham marriage, not an acquisition. "What did you just say?" Claire asked, her brow furrowed. "I said I'll be happy to play the part," I replied, genuinely confused. Her expression grew even more puzzled. She shook her head slightly. "Never mind. Be at City Hall tomorrow. 9 a.m. sharp." Stepping out of the Sterling Corp Tower onto the bustling Chicago street, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "Remember, in front of anyone, especially my parents, we are a real couple. Any breach of contract, and you don't see a dime." I texted back a simple understood, thinking, how hard can it be to fake being in love? It's just acting, and the payout is incredible. The next day, at City Hall, we posed for the obligatory photo. "A little closer," the photographer instructed. Claire's arm linked with mine, but her body was stiff as a board. I could practically feel the discomfort radiating off her. A small, private smile touched my lips. Even the Ice Queen CEO gets nervous. "Smile you too," the photographer chirped. Claire produced a tight, forced curve of her lips. My internal commentary was ruthless. That smile is about as genuine as a $3 bill. Strangely, she shot me a look, a glare so sharp it felt like it could pierce right through my carefully constructed facade. I immediately softened my expression into one of gentle adoration. Married life was surprisingly quiet. Claire set me up with a cushy, do-nothing job in a remote department of her company. We lived in her sprawling luxury condo overlooking Lake Michigan, but in separate bedrooms on opposite ends of the hall. In public, we were the picture of marital bliss. At home, we were strangers sharing a zip code. One evening, about 3 months in, Claire got home unusually early. I was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of instant ramen. She leaned against the doorframe, watching me. "Is that what you're eating?" she asked. "Ms. Sterling, are you finally taking an interest in your contract husband's dietary habits?" I quipped, flashing a grin. "Seriously? It's not like you're my real wife. Mind your own business." A strange look crossed her face. She took a few steps closer. "Ethan, have you noticed anything off lately?" "Nope," I said, swirling the noodles with my chopsticks. "Everything's proceeding according to the contract. 1 year, 9 months, and 3 days to go, and I'll be a free man." Claire's eyes widened slightly. "You're counting the days?" "Professional habit. Precision is a virtue," I shrugged, adding silently. "Mainly, I'm counting the days until that $1 million wire transfer hits my account." Suddenly, she pressed her fingers to her temple as if fighting off a headache. I instinctively moved to steady her, but the moment my hand touched her arm, she recoiled. "Don't touch me," she snapped, then hurried out of the kitchen. I stood there, stunned. What's her problem tonight? Did she eat some bad sushi? In the following weeks, Claire started actively avoiding me. At the office, she never walked past my department anymore. At home, she'd go straight to her room and close the door. I was more than happy for the space, my mind busy planning all the places I traveled to once the money came through. Then came the Friday departmental mixer. To everyone's surprise, Claire showed up. She sat at the far end of the long table while Mark, a smarmy manager for marketing, laid the flattery on thick, constantly refilling her wine glass. I scoffed internally. What a brown-noser. He clearly doesn't know Claire hates people like him. But then the unexpected happened. Claire looked up, her gaze cutting across the room to meet mine. She then turned to the manager. "Mark, this company values performance, not flattery." Mark retreated, his face a mask of embarrassment. I was floored. Claire's eyes stayed on me, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips. On the drive home, she broke the silence. Take me home. I blinked. You drove your own car. I've been drinking, she said flatly. I glanced over and, sure enough, saw the half-empty wine glasses that had been in front of her. This was odd. I knew for a fact Claire never drank at corporate functions. In the car, she rested her head against the passenger side window, eyes closed. I snuck a glance at her profile, illuminated by the passing city lights. Such a beautiful woman, I thought with a sigh. Wasting her life waiting for some old flame, this Julian guy. What a shame. Julian isn't a waste. The words, spoken so clearly, almost made me swerve into the next lane. What? Claire's eyes were open, boring into me. You said Julian is a waste. I didn't say anything. I stammered, my heart hammering against my ribs as my palms began to sweat. She stared at me for a few more seconds before turning away. I must have misheard you, but I knew she hadn't, because I had thought it, word for word. That night, I couldn't sleep. Was it possible? Could Claire Sterling somehow hear my thoughts? The idea was absurd. I had to find out. At breakfast the next morning, I put my theory to the test. As Claire sipped her coffee, I focused my thoughts. That navy blue suit is hideous. It makes her look like she's about to audit the IRS. Claire, mid-sip, choked on her coffee. She set the cup down with a clatter, frowning as she looked down at her immaculate, tailored suit. Is there a problem with what I'm wearing? She asked. Not at all. You look great, I said with a placid smile, continuing my internal commentary. Especially paired with that god-awful hairstyle. That bun is wound tighter than she is. Her hand flew unconsciously to the back of her head, her expression hardening. Test complete. She could hear me. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. It meant that for the past 3 months, every snarky comment, every complaint, every greedy thought about the $1 million payout. She'd probably heard it all, even my thoughts about her. Physically, a hot blush crept up my neck, and I quickly focused on my toast. The next few months were torture. I tried to police my own mind, to keep it a blank slate, but the more I tried to suppress my thoughts, the louder they seemed to become. Claire, for her part, acted as if nothing was wrong, though the looks she gave me grew increasingly complex. The turning point came on our first anniversary. Claire's parents insisted on taking us to dinner at a fancy downtown restaurant. We had to put on our best happy couple performance. Over dessert, her mother squeezed my hand. So, Ethan, were you two going to give us some grandchildren? Claire's not getting any younger, you know. I chuckled and played along. We're working on it, Eleanor. But in my head, I was screaming, grandchildren? This marriage is a work of fiction. Your daughter is still hung up on the one that got away. I'm just a placeholder. A sharp pain shot on my shin. Claire had kicked me under the table. I looked at her, and she was giving me a death glare. After dinner, Claire had had a bit too much wine. As I helped her into the car, she suddenly grabbed my tie, pulling me closer. Ethan, why are you always? Always what? I asked, my nerves on edge, terrified she was about to call me out on my thoughts again. But she just shook her head and slumped against my shoulder, falling asleep. For a moment, breathing in the subtle scent of her perfume, a dangerous thought surfaced. What if this was real? The thought had barely formed before her body tensed against mine. I immediately squashed it and focused on driving. Back at the condo, I helped her to her bedroom door. As I turned to leave, she grabbed my wrist. Her voice was sober now. Ethan, Julian gets back next week. My stomach dropped, but I kept the smile plastered on my face. That's great. I guess our contract can end a little early then. She stared at me, her eyes unreadable. Is that all you want? The $1 million? It's what we agreed on, I said softly, though I felt like I was being torn in two. One half of me was elated at the prospect of getting the money sooner. The other half was crushed by the realization that this play was finally over. Claire let go of my hand and turned away. Get out. A week later, Julian Vance was back. I saw a picture of him on Claire's phone. A handsome, suave-looking man with a gentle smile, his arm wrapped possessively around her shoulders. I sneered internally. A textbook phony. The kind that preys on women like Claire who have more money than sense. Just then, Claire walked out her home office and saw me looking at her phone. Our eyes met, and the air crackled with tension. He wants to see me tomorrow, she said. Our contract. I get it, I cut her off. I can have the divorce papers drawn up whenever you're ready. That night, I packed my suitcase. Claire didn't come home, undoubtedly spending the night with her perfect, long-lost love. I sat on the sofa, looking around the apartment I had lived in for a year, an unexpected emptiness echoing in my chest. The next morning, Claire returned. She looked pale and exhausted. My lawyer has the divorce agreement ready, she said, her voice hoarse. Okay. I nodded, my mind racing. She looks terrible. What did that bastard do to her? Claire's head snapped up. Why would you assume Julian is a con man? My heart skipped a beat. I never said that. You've thought it. Dozens of times, she said, looking me straight in the eye. Ever since our first day. I was speechless, a cold sweat trickling down my spine. She stepped closer. Tell me the truth, Ethan. Why do you think Julian is a fraud? Her directness broke through my defenses. I gave up. A friend of mine in college. He scammed her out of her entire life savings. She ended up dropping out, had a complete breakdown. I met him a few times back then. I never forgot his face or his M. Oh. Claire's expression was a whirlwind of emotions. Why didn't you tell me? We have a business arrangement. It wasn't my place to interfere in your personal life, I said with a bitter smile. Besides, would you have believed me? In your mind, he was perfect. She was silent for a long time. I had him investigated. This past week, I hired a private detective to look into his background. She looked at me, her voice trembling. You were right. He's a professional. Targets wealthy women. He's been married 3 times in Europe, vanishing after cleaning out their accounts each time. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded slowly. Claire suddenly grabbed my hand. Ethan, this past year. Thank you. Don't mention it. Just doing my job. I tried to say lightly, but a voice inside me was screaming, I don't want to go. Claire's eyes lit up, and she leaned in. What did you just say? I said, you're welcome. I stammered. She shook her head. No, what you thought. Say it again. My face was on fire. I couldn't speak, but Claire smiled. A real, genuine smile that transformed her entire face. She cupped my cheeks in her hands. I heard you, Ethan. I've heard you all year. At first, it was just fragments. Then it became clearer and clearer. I stared at her, dumbfounded. So you really can? Read my mind. It started the day we signed the contract, she confirmed. I thought I was going crazy. But then I realized it was real. I heard what you thought about Julian, about everyone at the office, and she blushed. Your occasional thoughts about me. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. But most importantly, she continued, her gaze intense, I heard the real you. The Ethan who is outwardly compliant, but inwardly sharp, observant, and principled. The Ethan who would leave a light on for me when I worked late. The Ethan who remembered I hate cilantro. The Ethan who was slowly falling in love with me. My heart was going to beat its way out of my chest. Claire, the contract is void, she announced suddenly. No divorce. No $1 million. My heart sank. Understand. I'll leave now. You idiot, she said, grabbing the collar of my shirt. That's not what I mean. I want a real marriage, not a contract. I was frozen, unable to process her words. Claire stood on her toes and whispered in my ear, this whole year, by listening to your thoughts, I've fallen in love with you, too. Ethan Hayes, will you start over with me? Not as a contract husband, but as a real one. My brain was offline. I could only operate on instinct. Yes, Claire beamed, and then she kissed me. And in that kiss, 2 things became crystal clear. 1, my $1 million payday was gone. And 2, I had gotten something infinitely more valuable. Claire's real, genuine love. As for her mind reading, looked like I was never going to have a secret again for the rest of my life. But as her lips found mine again, I realized that might not be such a bad thing after all. The contract went through the office shredder. I watched the $1 million piece of paper turn into a pile of useless confetti, a strange mix of emotions churning inside me. Claire turned around, a triumphant smile on her face. She was wearing a soft pink lipstick today that made her look less like a CEO and more approachable. Having second thoughts, she asked, one eyebrow arched. I shook my head and pulled her into my arms. Just thinking you got a raw deal. You could have saved $1 million. Her finger tapped my chest. I can't hear you, Ethan, and your heart is doing a victory lap. I coughed, embarrassed. She was right. On the outside, I was playing it cool, but my pulse was thundering like a drum solo. Having a mind reader for a partner meant I was completely transparent. You'll get used to it, she said with a soft laugh, slipping out of my embrace. I'm going to change. We have a gala tonight. You're coming with me. As I watched her walk toward the master closet, I let out a long sigh. For the last year, I'd lived behind a mask. Now, suddenly being told to be myself felt terrifyingly foreign. From a closet, her voice floated out. Stop overthinking it, Ethan. I fell for the real you, not the perfect actor you were pretending to be. I managed a weak smile. That was the downside of dating a telepath. You couldn't even wallow in your own anxiety and peace. At the gala that evening, Claire, in a stunning emerald green gown, was a different person. Gone was the aloof distance. She held my hand tightly as she introduced me to her business partners. This is my husband, Ethan Hayes. The pride in her voice was a heady, intoxicating thing. Claire, finally decided to show the husband off, have we? Joked Mr. Davis, a portly board member. Claire smiled warmly. I was foolish before. I'm discovering that showing him off is actually quite fun. Easy for you to say, I thought. The difference between a contract and a real relationship is about $1 million and a whole lot of mental exposure. I felt a sharp pinch on my arm. Claire was giving me a look. I quickly composed my face into a pleasant smile, realizing with a jolt that my freedom to even think sarcastic thoughts was now officially over. On the drive home, with the city lights streaking past, Claire leaned her head against the window. Ethan, she began softly. I know the mind reading makes you uncomfortable. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. A little. It feels like I'm permanently naked. She let out a small laugh. I'll try my best to tune it out, but the ability isn't always under my control. When your emotions are strong, your thoughts get very loud. Well, I'll just have to achieve a state of perfect zen, I joked, then immediately pictured her in the emerald dress and not much else. Ethan, her ears turned a deep shade of crimson. I burst out laughing, the tension that had been coiling in my gut all day finally releasing. Being my true self, it turned out, wasn't as terrifying as I'd imagined. That night, Claire didn't return to her bedroom. When I woke, sunlight was streaming through the silk curtains. I lay staring at the ceiling, trying to process the reality of the situation. Claire was curled up beside me, her breathing soft and even. For the first time in a year, we had truly shared a bed. I gently brushed a stray strand of hair from her face, an overwhelming wave of protectiveness washing over me. This powerful woman, who commanded boardrooms and built empires, looked as vulnerable as a child in her sleep. As if sensing my gaze, she opened her eyes. Her dark irises locked onto mine. Good morning, husband. The word sent a jolt of warmth through me. She had always called me Ethan, or more often, just good morning, wife. I replied, the new word feeling strange and wonderful on my tongue. Claire's smile was so bright it could have powered the city. She moved closer, whispering against my ear, I like the way that sounds. The atmosphere was growing thick with unspoken promises when her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Frowning, she picked it up. The name on the screen made her expression instantly serious. Chloe? What's wrong? It's early. I slipped out of bed and headed for the shower, giving her privacy. As the hot water cascaded over me, I tried to get my bearings. This relationship had accelerated from 0 to 100 overnight. Her telepathy was both the catalyst that brought us together and a potential time bomb. When I emerged, a towel slung around my waist, Claire was already dressed in a sharp business suit, fastening her watch. There's a problem at the office, she said, her words clipped and fast. Our new project's core data might have been leaked. A competitor just announced a nearly identical product a week ahead of our launch. I frowned. An inside job? I don't know yet. She grabbed her briefcase. I have to go. You should rest today. You didn't get much sleep last night. She paused, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. I caught her hand. I'm coming with you. Maybe I can help. She hesitated for a second, then nodded. The atmosphere in the Sterling Court boardroom was grim. Executives sat around the long table, their faces tense. On the projector screen was a side-by-side comparison of their competitor's new product and Project Chimera, the result of 6 months of secret development. This can't be a coincidence. David Chun, the CTO, slammed his hand on the table. They even copied our UI design element for element. Claire, seated at the head of the table, steepled her fingers. Panicking won't help. Our priority now is damage control and finding the leak. Finance, I want a full projection of the potential losses. Legal, prepare a lawsuit. Tech, I need a complete reassessment of Chimera's market viability. Her voice was steady, a rock in the storm, but I saw her left hand, her ring finger, trembling almost imperceptibly, a nervous habit I'd noticed since our marriage. After the meeting, I stayed behind to organize my notes. Claire's assistant, Chloe Reed, pushed the door open. She was a petite woman with round glasses who radiated an air of harmless efficiency. Mr. Hayes, she said, handing me a cup of coffee. Ms. Sterling asked me to bring this to you. I thanked her, but as my fingers brushed against hers taking the cup, a strange voice echoed in my mind. It wasn't a sound, more like a direct implant of a thought. He doesn't know. The evidence is... I looked up sharply, but Chloe was already walking away. The feeling vanished as quickly as it came, leaving me wondering if I'd imagined it. Claire came back into the room, finding me lost in thought. What is it? I shook my head. Nothing. Just... Chloe seems a little off. Claire raised an eyebrow. She's been with me for 5 years. She's my most trusted employee. She paused. Although, she's been acting strangely lately. Before I could ask more, Claire's phone rang again. She glanced at the screen and sighed. Emergency board meeting. You should go home. I might be very late tonight. Alone back at the condo, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. If there was a mole, who could it be? I powered up my laptop and logged into the company's internal server, using the credentials Claire had given me to help with interdepartmental reports. One entry immediately caught my eye. 3 days before the Project Chimera leak, Chloe Reed's account had accessed the core design folder. The access time was 2 a.m., and it had lasted for 2 hours. According to the company's schedule, she was on vacation that day. I was about to dig deeper when the doorbell rang. The security monitor showed a courier. I signed for a small, unmarked package. Inside was a single USB drive and a note written in block letters. Plug this in. You'll find the truth. I inserted the drive. It contained a series of email screenshots, a chain of correspondence between Chloe and a senior executive at the rival company. The emails detailed the exchange of Sterling Corp's trade secrets for cash. The last message sent a chill down my spine. For the final payment, I want more than money. I want Claire Sterling ruined. This wasn't just corporate espionage. It was a personal vendetta. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Claire. Are you looking into Chloe? My fingers trembled as I replied. How did you know? I heard you, she texted back. Be careful. Don't let her know you're suspicious. I'm on my way home. While waiting for Claire, I explored the rest of the USB drive. There was one last file, a video dated 3 months ago. I clicked play. The grainy footage was from the condo's parking garage. It showed Chloe, standing beside Claire's car, furtively planting a small device under the steering column. My blood ran cold. It looked like a tracking bug or a listening device. The sound of key in the lock made me jump. I quickly closed the video file. Claire walked in, her face pale and drawn. Ethan, she said, her voice tight. Did you know about Chloe before today? No, of course not, I said, shaking my head. I only got suspicious today. This USB drive just showed up out of nowhere. Then why? Claire interrupted. Were you thinking Chloe can't be trusted a month ago? I just remembered. There were several times you looked at her, and I heard your doubt. I was stunned. It was just a gut feeling. The way she looks at you sometimes. It's like jealousy mixed with resentment. Her eyes narrowed. Is that all? You're not hiding anything else? You're doubting me? I stood up incredulous. Claire, what could I possibly hide? You can read my mind. Exactly. Her voice rose, sharp and brittle. The fragments I hear make no sense. Ethan, the timing of this leak is too perfect, right after our relationship changed. Today, the board even suggested that the mole might be the person closest to me. The accusation hit me like a physical blow. You think I'm in on it with her? She wouldn't meet my eyes. Your thoughts can be controlled if you were intentionally hiding something or if you had professional training. I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. So, now I'm some kind of master corporate spy? Claire, we've lived together for a year. Is that what you really think of me? She turned her face away. I need time to think. Fine, I said, grabbing my jacket from the chair. Take all the time you need. I'll have to get a hotel. The moment the door slammed shut, I heard a single, agonized thought from Claire. No, but it was too late. As the elevator descended, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Mr. Hayes, want to know the whole story? Meet me. Alone. Address to follow. Chloe. I stared at the screen, pure rage burning through me. This venomous woman wasn't just betraying Claire. She was trying to tear us apart. I replied with 2 words, when and where. Chloe chose a desolate coffee shop on the industrial outskirts of the city. When I walked in, she was sitting in a corner booth, 2 coffees already on the table. Mr. Hayes, she said with a saccharine smile. Or should I say, Claire's contract husband? I sat down, my face a mask of stone. Cut the crap, Chloe. What do you want? She pushed her glasses up her nose. I know your marriage is a sham. Claire told me herself, back when she still trusted me. Her voice was laced with poison. She used to tell me everything, until you showed up. So you sold out her company for revenge? I demanded. Chloe laughed. That was just the beginning. I want her to lose everything. Her company, her reputation, and you. She leaned forward, her eyes glinting. I know you're investigating me, but it's too late. Claire already suspects you, doesn't she? I shot to my feet. You set me up. Clever boy, she purred. I planted just enough evidence to point to you. She trusts that little gift of hers so much, but she never imagined I could use it against her. Every time you looked at me and felt a flicker of suspicion, she heard it and misinterpreted it. My fists clenched. Why would you do this? Because I love her. Chloe's voice suddenly rose, cracking with emotion. 5 years. I was by her side through every crisis. And you, a man who literally sold himself for money, how dare you be the one she falls for? I forced myself to calm down. You're wrong. It stopped being a contract a long time ago. What does that matter now? Chloe sneered. The seeds of doubt are planted, and I have plenty more evidence to make them grow. She held up a manila envelope. Or, you could do me a little favor, and this will all disappear. What favor? Leave her, Chloe said, a fanatical light in her eyes. Disappear from her life completely. I can give you double what she offered. 2 million. In cash. I shook my head. Not happening. Then you leave me no choice, she said, clutching the envelope. When Claire sees this, she'll be convinced you were a spy from the very beginning. After all, who's to say you weren't? I looked at her, and a slow smile spread across my face. I am. In a single motion, I pulled out my phone and hit play. Our entire conversation, recorded from the moment I walked in, filled the small cafe. You were recording me? Chloe's face went white. Professional habit, I said, pocketing the phone. Now, give me the evidence of you bugging Claire's car, or this recording goes straight to the Chicago PD. She lunged across the table, trying to snatch the phone. We struggled, sending coffee cups crashing to the floor. I broke free and made a run for the door, but as I turned, a searing pain exploded at the back of my head. Chloe had smashed a heavy ceramic coffee pot against my skull. My vision blurred. The last thing I saw was her crazed face as she raised a chair. The next thing I knew, I was hearing Claire's voice, thick with panic. Ethan, can you hear me? I pried my eyes open. The world swam into focus. I was in a hospital bed. Claire was beside me, her eyes red and swollen from crying. The moment she saw I was awake, she threw her arms around me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Chloe, I asked, my voice a raw croak. They caught her, Claire said, pulling back. She was seen fleeing on a security camera. The police found a mountain of evidence at her apartment. She gently touched the bandage on my head, her hand trembling. I almost lost you. It's my fault. I relied so much on my ability that I forgot the most important thing. Trust. I took her hand. It's not all on you. Having that ability means you're used to getting unfiltered information. It makes you vulnerable to manipulation. She shook her head. I should have known you would never betray me. When you left the apartment, all I could hear in your head was your anger and how worried you were for me. There wasn't a single trace of guilt. I knew I was wrong then. What about the USB drive? The anonymous tip came from a junior guy in the tech department, Claire explained with a sad smile. He noticed Chloe's suspicious activity, but was too scared to report her directly. It's ironic. My telepathy made me paranoid, and I walked right into Chloe's trap. I tried to sit up, but Claire gently pushed me back down. Don't move. The doctor said you have a mild concussion. So, I looked at her, a faint smile on my lips. Are we good? Tears welled in her eyes again. We were never not good. I was just terrified of being betrayed again. After what happened with Julian, I found it so hard to trust anyone. I get it, I said softly. We could take it slow. She leaned down, her forehead resting against mine. No, we've already been slow for a year. Ethan, I want you to move into the master bedroom. I want a real marriage. No walls, no secrets. Even with my internal monologue, especially with your internal monologue, I whispered back. That way, you'll always know how much I love you. When Claire's lips met mine, I closed my eyes and let every ounce of love I felt for her surge through my mind. No filter, no holding back. This time, I wanted her to hear every single word. On the day I was discharged, the sun was shining brightly. Claire held my arm as we walked to the car. Her phone rang. She glanced at it, and her expression grew serious. What is it? I asked. The board just held a vote, she said, taking a deep breath. In light of how the crisis was handled, they've unanimously promoted me. I'm the permanent CEO now, not just the interim. I smiled. Congratulations, Madam CEO. But a shadow of a doubt crossed her face. But, will you be there with me? I took her hand and placed it flat against my chest. Claire, you don't just have my word. You can hear my heart. The answer should be pretty loud and clear. In the bright Chicago sun, Claire's smile was more brilliant than anything I had ever seen. She wasn't my boss anymore or my contract partner. She was the woman I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And as for that lost $1 million, I had gotten a much better deal.